Uh-oh. Is it skipping? Uh-uh. Something's going on with the streaming.
Did
How
it?
do it was skipping a little bit. It's crazy the internet has been skipping. You know what I had to change to this week, Christine?
Why?
CDs. I was listening to my Mariah Carey CD in the car because the internet is skipping. What is going on?
Because I didn't hear it skip at all, but it skipped on your
Mhm.
end. I'm
It
so
did. It
sorry.
did. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. I had a
I
good
was
time
having
dancing.
the thought
Mm,
because I was thinking about Pavlov's dog and
mhm.
how, like, when that music comes on, I just automatically get happy. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what else is happening. And then when we drop, like when that
Mhm,
beat drops, like it's like boom, right?
mhm,
And
mhm.
you and I were talking before the show because we have one of our favorite people is working
Yeah, we
on
do.
some new theme music for us, and I
Mhm,
just had that curiosity when my body lit up with that music. Oh,
mhm,
how's it going to be with the new
mm.
music?
And I would hypothesize, right? I was talking about being a researcher earlier this week. I would say probably the same, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not as much excitement at the beginning because you have to get used to it. That's what Pavlov's dogs taught us, right? If you don't know the story, is the bell with
Mhm,
the food and
mhm.
anticipation of food with the sound of the bell, right? So it might take a few times to plan it, but I think it will.
Total side note, but
Mm,
socials.
yeah.
I saw something funny, not funny, on socials the
Okay.
other day
Okay.
about Pavlov's dog.
Mm,
Um, so this girl was talking about how she wanted a guy to like her.
yeah.
So every time she saw him, she gave him
Hmm.
his favorite candy every
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
and so he'd be happy every time he saw her. And then she started seeing like he was happy, and then he kind of catches himself like, "Why am I so happy to see?"
Yeah. Now, this is not a question that was sent in, right? But what I would have to say about that is like, what about the sugar, right? Because
Right,
yes, he's happy to see you, okay, but now it's like that compound effect over time. Where does it lead? A healthy or unhealthy place,
right.
right? And then
Well,
what about
even
the
the
budget?
whole well, or even the whole emotional and mental wellness, right? Like, but I did think
It's
it was
smart.
it was an interesting thing, right? Because
Hmm.
it wouldn't have to be food; it could be, I don't
Nope,
know. I
I
just
don't even wanna do it.
Mhm.
I was that girl, Christine, right? You wanna give gifts? This young man did not ask you to celebrate his birthday, and out here I am giving away my favorite board game that I waited years to get, you know what I mean? So any
Give
flag
it
up
back.
giving your
Give
power
what's his
away, whoop,
name?
giving
Give
your
it
power
back.
away, the flag was thrown, okay? Like, what about the budget? You know what I mean? Like, if this gentleman is not already interested in what he sees when you flip your hair and walk
Right?
by,
Ooh,
baby, you
ooh,
do not have to
that's
buy it,
that's
okay? Like,
right.
like, whatever, next.
What was the game? What was the game?
It was this the glass marble game that has the oval on the sides, the 2 sides with the 6, you gotta
Mm,
go up and down. What's that called?
yeah.
Mandala, is it that?
Mandala,
Something. I
mandala.
might be
What is
mixing
it?
it up with my Chinese,
Okay,
like, dice game,
okay.
the virtual dice game that you have to, like, match. I might
Mhm.
be getting those mixed up, and it might be
Okay.
wrong for both, but no. We no longer give gifts to boys every time we see them for them to like us. Mm-mm.
I'm with you.
That's what
I'm with you. I just
Yeah,
thought it was we were talking
it
about
was good,
Pablo's
it's a good
dog, and I
idea.
thought about that social,
Hello.
right?
No, I'm keeping my
Should
candy bar. Keep it for yourself.
keep it, right?
Yeah.
It's hysterical. Yeah.
Talking about being wrapped up like a candy bar, we are wrapping this season, and I do hear you asking about the intro. Yeah, I think we go ahead and do it. What do you think?
Let's do the official intro. Let's do it, and
Okay.
then we'll get into it.
Yeah, and we could talk about what your favorite candy bar is. I wanna know. I don't think I know that
Right.
one about you.
Mhm.
Okay. Hey, y'all. I'm Shannon Mitchell, Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling publisher, author, and all-natural product manufacturer. I'm a champion for your natural self-care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I am Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, best selling author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself in community care.
Together, we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co-founders of Women Connected in Wisdom Community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness.
Mm,
Often we have expert guests, but on our days of wrap up, it's you
mhm.
and I, which I love because we get to
Yes.
talk about the guests we had,
Yeah.
and dish on our favorite episodes and just kind of catch up. But
Yeah.
first of all, I know it is our practice
Mm.
to just pause and celebrate. So I'm wondering if you have that victory bell close by.
Oh, no, it's another room.
Episode 194,
Yes.
wrapping up season 23.
23. Thank you so much,
A
all our
round of
listeners,
applause.
right,
Yes.
our viewers, our downloaders, our guests.
Right.
Mm.
Sati, our behind the scenes
Sati
production,
Mara.
Sati Badra, we love you.
Yes,
Couldn't do it
yes, we
without
do.
you. All the people that support and love us and have been with
Yeah,
us from the beginning.
yeah,
And just gratitude because as we wrap season 24, we will have flipped over 200 episodes.
yeah,
We will have flipped over. We've already flipped over 4 years.
yeah.
So, like,
I
what?
know. Oh, I
Mm,
love it. I love it, I love it. When I think about these stories, Christine. So I've been watching anime, right? And one of my
mhm,
favorite animes, Naruto, he has this thing called a Will of Fire. And I feel like we've talked about it on the podcast, right? I have a couple different wills of fire. And sometimes there's things that make me upset and the way women are treated in the positions we find ourselves in,
mhm.
And there's still situations with doctors saying stuff and resources that people need and oh, I have a guest for this and I'm
Girl.
so glad I was connected to this resource and why is this information not out there? And even last week, we were talking about the limited research on personal development, right? There's a lot on organizational development and growth and streamlining. What about a system for yourself in your life? And for me, the 8 dimensions of wellness is definitely one of those. So I'm super grateful for 23 seasons.
Well, also last week, so it happened and then it unhappened because
What
of
happened?
public outcry, right? But at first, the federal government was going to cancel funding for women's health studies. They were going to cancel it, pull out all um, the monies. Now,
Mm,
there was a huge outcry. This is about 5 days ago, right?
mm, mhm,
Because it was Health and Human Services, national government was going to cancel in the United States all our funding for women's health, which we already know we're behind, right?
mhm,
Most
mhm,
things are typically studied and researched on white males. So
mm,
we're behind with women. We're
mhm,
behind with anybody that's not a white male.
mhm, mhm,
The studies, and so, but it did say that they reversed course and restored the funding. Now, I truly believe that's because people spoke out
mm,
and were like, no,
mhm.
because people were like, this is critical. But I
Yeah.
think these conversations are a piece of it, right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
it is, we have to speak up and we can't take it for granted that
mhm.
people have our backs, especially right now with what's going on in the world, that we can
Right.
have each other's back as women and women connected in wisdom. And that, and and I'm a little wary even as I look it up because
Mhm,
they've said they've reinstated other things, and I know people in the field that
mhm,
the money was not turned back on. So
mm,
probably want to pay attention to this story
mhm.
because one of them was a long running study that followed for 40,000 women.
Wow.
It's a long range study that have been participating in this project for decades to really
Mhm,
look at the cancer, women's cancer. And I don't
mhm,
know if I told you last week because I was so funky last week, but one of the women that is currently locked up, that had the right to be in our country legally, but
mhm,
they has gotten caught up in everything going on. She's a researcher that may hold the cure to detecting cancer. Like
mm,
she's currently locked up and immigrate by ICE.
mm.
Um, and so it's important that we're paying attention because it's going to affect our wellness. It's going to affect our what happens,
Yes.
and
Yes,
it's a lot.
yes.
Acknowledging it's a lot, y'all.
It is. And that's what I was thinking about when you were talking about voice. I've been trying to
Mhm,
figure out how I want to talk about voice as I look at my Instagram. I'm like, wow. Last time I posted on my Instagram, I was a voting ambassador, right? Helping people vote for this presidential election,
mhm,
and haven't posted since our information about the book and do you want to be part of volume 3, right? And so I
mhm,
look at that when you talk about noticing instead of judging and all the tools and things we talk about on the podcast. And I think about the emotional toll that things take, situations, emergencies,
mhm,
whatever is going on,
mhm.
and that can affect your voice. I know I'm
Oh,
very
yeah.
affected by environments and all this stuff, and then the
Mhm,
capacity that I have and where I choose and when I choose to use my voice. Right.
mhm,
So I definitely want to give more space to that as we're inviting the ladies and our listeners and everybody around the world to, hey, use your voice. We think this is the reason why, this is hopefully reversed. When you can, do it, and when you can't, we've been talking about pouring double into yourself to fill yourself back up, to get back on, come back when you
right.
can. Because things definitely go in seasons, but to protect that so that you have what you need to use your voice, excuse me, microphone, in the different situations that you're gonna find yourself in, because we need it and we gotta hold on to it. We can't. I'm not going backwards. I'm impressed. How do I go back to it being illegal to read and write? You're gonna be missing a co-host on a podcast, okay? Like,
No,
my goodness.
no.
No,
I mean, but that's why we
no.
have to speak out right now. I mean,
Right.
this is why, and acknowledging that it's a lot, acknowledging
Mhm,
that sometimes we need to set it down.
mhm,
But I think the other thing is we do need to tap in at
mhm,
certain times and being
mhm,
paying attention or have a friend that's tapped in that you can ask,
mhm,
have a way because I do I'm going to sound like my mother when I start saying
mm.
this. I'm going to get on my
Okay.
soapbox a
Hey,
little bit,
Janet.
right? But
Yes.
um, with the way social media
Mhm,
is you can be in a silo that you never hear what's going on, right? Or never see what's going on.
mhm,
If you're and then you could be in a silo kind of like I am where all you
mhm,
hear or see is that and it can be too much, right?
mhm,
You have to play. Like
mhm.
I consciously had to mix up my social media so I wasn't just getting all the news and
Yeah,
all the rah, you
yeah.
know.
Good job. Yeah.
um
I hear you.
but I think that having a plan
Mhm,
for our self care, having a plan for our community care. I think a piece of our community care is paying attention, especially in the
mhm,
United States right now. Which shout out to our Northern Canadian neighbors. They did
mm.
a great job with their election. I
Good.
don't know if you knew about this, but
Mm,
their conservative candidate, who
mhm,
was backed by Trump, was in
mm.
the lead. And
Okay.
then because of the last 100 days in the United States and
Mhm,
all the illegality that's happening and all the
mm,
extremism that's happening,
mm,
their country rose up and said no. And they
mhm,
elected the liberal candidate and
mm.
more moderate, probably more moderate. I think they name
Okay.
it liberal or
I hear
conservative in
you.
Canada, but I
Right,
think its
right.
politics tend to be more moderate from what I've
Okay,
seen.
okay.
But
Mhm,
yeah, rose up and said, "Oh no, we're not doing that." So
mhm.
so great job, Canada. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So
I love that for them.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so much going on in the world. You were
Mhm.
asking about favorite candy bar. What's your favorite candy bar?
What just popped in my mind was, Hershey's with almonds. I wish they made a dark chocolate
Mm.
Hershey's with almonds, but either way,
Mm.
I don't eat it. It's off the
I
list.
know you're so
Yeah.
good. I
Mm,
did want to ask you because I didn't see it on your socials, but I saw it on
mm,
Pharaoh's socials about no
mhm,
sugar.
mhm.
Y'all
Oh,
completely no sugar?
so, no, I believe that sugar is the number one cause of cancer, right? So, with both of my parents having cancer, it's something that I don't play with. I decided that
Hmm.
when my dad got his stomach removed,
Okay.
so I always minimize it. For sweeteners, we use honey or agave. I do have
Hmm.
brown sugar, and I'll use it sometimes. It's definitely a staple in the oatmeal recipe,
Hmm.
Um, but artificial sugar, high fructose corn syrup is on the no list. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, a lot
Hmm.
of processed sugar, and then we definitely watch the quantity of it. I have been
Hmm.
thinking about some Cinnaholic. These cinnamon rolls are so good, so I do plan on having one probably in the next 6 months, and I will have some of my favorite gummy bears, the Albanese gummies. Oh, My goodness, my birthday's coming up, so there for my birthday, so in a few weeks, Imma have some gummy bears.
I
Mhm.
love that. So those
Yeah.
are your favorite then.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, those are still on the
Alright,
list. What
alright.
about
I
you?
love
What's
those
what's
when
your
I
favorite?
fly.
Yeah.
I didn't
Ah,
grow
you
up
said that.
eating gummy bears, but
Right.
I can't remember which airline has those on their
Mm.
menu, and,
Mhm.
I'll occasionally treat myself to those. Me,
Yeah.
I'm definitely a dark chocolate girly.
I love
Like,
dark
I
chocolate.
like a little bit of dark chocolate.
Yeah.
I like it 70% or higher, so it's the
Mm.
healthy version for your heart,
Hello.
and I love it with a good almond or a nut mixed in,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's when I was a kid, and even still, like on Halloween, because we just
Mm.
don't do candy. We're the same. We don't
Right.
do a lot of processed sugar.
Yeah. What do you
Um,
do on Halloween?
oh, I like a good Heath bar. Like
Okay. I like the
it's
turtles. Turtles are good.
right.
Yeah.
I do like a caramel, but it's a lot of sugar, and when you're
Yeah,
not
it
used to
is.
processed sugar, so I'm just
Mhm.
as happy with a little bit of dark chocolate and sea
Mhm.
salt, or
Mhm.
you know, that's my fave. Yeah. So if
Mhm.
you're listening to this episode, y'all, tell us what your favorite candy bar is,
Ooh.
that
Mhm.
you love, or your favorite
Yes.
treat.
Yes.
I am also,
One
oh, go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, as you also know, like one of my
Mhm.
favorite sweeteners is raw dark honey. Like if I'm gonna
Mm.
make something,
Yeah.
or dates. Like there's a
They're
lot
on
of
the list to
recipes
try.
with dates,
Yeah, there
and
are, like, stuffed dates and everything.
ooh, can I tell you?
Tell me.
Like you open up a date and you
Yeah.
put in some goat cheese. It
Yeah.
tastes like cheesecake.
Oof.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've used those as appetizers before. They are
Good
delish.
idea. And, y'all,
So
there's all these different, types of goat cheese. Goat cheese is so, like, smooth and
right,
creamy. Okay.
right,
Okay. And goat cheese is on like, cheese is on the no list too, the dairy, you know what I mean? So,
right.
there's a lot of stuff on the no list. I usually don't put countries on the no list. I put, processed food on the no list, okay? Um,
So,
but
but goat cheese is not. You don't do goat cheese?
no, I love it and I still don't do it. I try to stay away from the dairy too. Dairy almost immediately I can feel the congestion and all this stuff. So we usually do,
Oh,
I do oat milk. Mhm.
yeah. Well, I don't do a lot of dairy, but I do goat cheese and sheep's cheese.
Yeah, and I
My
usually feel pretty good
nutritionalist
after the
is
goat cheese.
like, yeah. So I
Okay.
kind of give myself a little bit of a pass with that.
Yeah. I'm glad you
Um,
said that because I've been looking at it. I would love to put some goat cheese on some of these
right?
salads and stuff, so I
Try
just try
it
to
and see.
minimize it. Yeah,
Right,
the milk
right.
and stuff. Mm-mm.
And I'm a big believer in elimination diets where
Mhm.
you take it off and then you
Mhm.
slowly introduce one thing at a time back, just like you would
Mhm.
do with a baby, right? But it
Yeah,
lets your
yeah.
system know, does my system like this or
Right.
not?
Yeah.
And yeah. So
Yeah.
everybody's different. That's the thing.
Mhm.
You have to listen to your body and your
That's
body
very true.
wisdom.
Yeah, and it
So
changes over time. We know that, and especially with me losing all this weight and then keeping it off. I think it's been how many years has it been now? 5, 6,
yeah,
going from the Daniel's fast, which is even stricter than vegan, to, you know, now having chicken and stuff like it is. I definitely hear what you're saying about adding stuff back and being intentional.
right. Well,
Yeah.
talking about things changing, our
Yeah.
first guest of the season, and when you said fire will, I was cracking up because I was like, oh,
Mhm.
we could put our first guest of the season.
Some fire. Yeah. Yeah, she came with a passion, didn't she? Yeah, we're talking
Oh,
about go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna crack up and say, if you haven't seen this video and watched your face when she said she brought visuals, I
I
would
was thinking about
encourage
that part.
everybody to go back and watch the original live video when Susan Bratton, who was
Yeah, she
talking
did.
about sexual vitality and intimate
Mhm.
wellness,
Yeah.
said she brought graphics. I
Mhm.
thought you were
What do you?
doing
Because I
awesome.
said, "Christine, pause." I looked at you, I said, "Okay, we'll do it next time." What did you think? What did you see?
Probably in both of our faces, like, oh, graphics.
Wasn't
What
expecting
does
that,
that?
right.
What does
I
that do to
wonder what
our
they're of.
rating? And
Right, no, you'd have to.
we're currently zooming to LinkedIn,
Yeah, that's what I
YouTube,
think about.
and Facebook. Like
Shout out to
if we were
LinkedIn.
just doing YouTube,
Right,
probably get away with the visuals, right?
right.
But I'm thinking LinkedIn. Could you
Yeah.
imagine watching us on LinkedIn?
Oh my
And
goodness. And to top
she
off,
was
people
fire
are like,
though,
"What are we talking about?" You know what I mean?
right?
So
We're talking
Funny.
about physical wellness. We were talking
Yes, we
about
were.
women's health. We were talking about
Mhm,
physical wellness. We
mhm,
were talking about menopause, especially, and the
mhm,
way our bodies change. It was a powerful episode, y'all.
mhm.
I would highly recommend if you missed that one, checking it out. That was,
Yeah.
what episode was that? That was 187, right?
It I think it was 186, and what I love
Oh,
about it
yeah.
is the intentionality of the hormone balance based on where you are in life. I love that
Right.
she has these supplements. She was talking about, the sexual biohacking revolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just having this conversation with a close female friend of mine. We've been friends for 16 years, and we were talking about progesterone
Mm-hmm.
and what else, Lord? I should know this one as a woman. Hold on. What's the
Estrogen?
female? Thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
A brain fart.
It's okay.
But thinking about the balance of the hormones, right? And I thought about immediately Susan Bratton and her resource that she developed based on the research that she's done. And I love that she talks about it being a skill, talks about balancing your body. That's what we talk about, right?
Right.
Communication, talking to your partner. That's good for community wellness, right? In your household. And making sure that, what did she say? And actually it was what you said. She said sexuality as a birthright, right? I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And you were talking about thriving and not just surviving in that video. And it's
Right.
really important, especially as women, that we own what we want for ourselves, that we own that conversation, and we at least
Mm-hmm.
think about it before it's just a side conversation for our kids using our body or somebody else using it or what somebody else wants. That's how I think about it right now.
Well, I mean, I've been thinking about this topic for a long time. When I
Yeah.
was in grad school, women's studies,
Yeah.
and talking about how, especially advertising, and I
Mhm.
know I mentioned it on the show before, but like how advertising manipulates us about like what we should look like, how we
Yeah.
should be, even
Yeah.
how many times we should be having sex. Like all of
Mm.
that, it tends to be manipulated by the advertising market and capitalism. And
Mhm.
if you do this, you'll have this, and therefore you'll fall in love, and all your problems will go away, right?
Oof.
Ta-da! If you just buy this perfume, or you
Propaganda.
just wear this, right?
Right.
Or you're
Right.
this size, or,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
all know that's not true, but it's
Mm.
easy to fall into it sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It's easy
Yeah.
to fall into, to that mindset. So I loved having this conversation with Susan and her
Mm.
expertise
Yes.
about, that it is like we can have good sex when we're in
Mhm.
our 50s, 60s, 70s,
Mhm.
like that it is possible. So
Mhm.
that was super fun, and it's a part of our health. That
Right.
it's not just frivolous.
Right.
So I think that was
Mhm.
important.
Yeah. And even if it was part of the way that we're made, you know what I mean? So we could have that conversation, and we've talked about having Susan back on. Again, we've talked about the diagrams coming with her, so be ready for that one, right? And we'll dive a little bit deeper into it, but it
Okay.
also brings up one of our guests that was talking about embracing the unexpected,
Mm,
embracing the unknown and discovering your relationship to change with Lisa DeAngelis. And what does life look like in different seasons? You know what I mean? What does it look like when your weight is different and it's not picture perfect with the picture that you had hanging up in your
mhm,
locker or on your wall? What do you do then?
mhm.
Mm,
Episode 193, we just had her last week.
yeah, we did.
Fire, fire.
Yes.
That was such a good episode. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was talking to you before the show, but we've been playing around over on YouTube with YouTube Shorts. So if y'all are over there, subscribe to our channel. And
Yes.
Lisa's video has close to 1,300 views on
Mhm.
this, and it was
Yeah.
about authenticity. And it
Mhm.
was about, as she works with horses, and being authentic, and that horses, can tell when you're showing up like fake, but you're really
Mm.
feeling something else. And that
Yeah.
piece of genuine authenticity, I thought it was a fascinating conversation. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed it.
And I was listening to part of it earlier. I love the part. Oh no, that was actually Ashley Holmes, and we'll get to that in a second. But to talk about what you just brought up with the authenticity with the horses reminded me of this research that I heard about, another video online, right? And this gentleman was sharing how even stronger than love is authenticity. And I believe love is really powerful, right? But I could see in a certain moment, maybe if I'm trying to hold love and I'm not okay, and I'm trying to put love in the forefront and be kind, but I'm hurt, why authenticity might be stronger than that. You know what I mean? And of course, we could talk about how to communicate it and how to be respond and not reactionary, right? But
Hmm.
authenticity is definitely really important. And so, how to do that in moments of change, my goodness. I remember being a kitchen manager and I was so upset trying to work through this situation. Like, what does the team want me to do? I don't know what people are expecting of me. Like, I feel like you're asking me to be somebody I'm not. And I realized that no matter what they're asking, you still have a responsibility to listen to your team, right? So feedback is a gift. I knew I had a responsibility to listen, but I kind of had to tease out, how do I meet them where they're saying they need me to meet them and still hold on to myself. And that's really what I think about with her book, and what I'm looking forward to getting out of it with embracing the unknown.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I really enjoyed having her as a guest. And
Yeah.
she is going to be one of our volume 3 authors. So I'm
Oh,
really excited about that.
yes.
Joining us and telling her story. So
Yeah.
I am thrilled about that update.
Me too.
Yeah, this season was fire. Like
It
we
was.
had Diane Wisga about
Mhm,
seen, heard, understood, and listened to,
mhm, mhm.
and she's a storyteller out of Story Arts, and powerful stories.
Yeah. And she talks about origin stories specifically too, right? And I thought that was so interesting because when we talk about Pavlov's dogs and conditioning and where things come from, that's one of my most interesting things that I love about conditioning, is that people a lot of times forget that it can be as simple as what happened when you were little. What happened from where you're from. And for me
Right?
as a reader, we talk about knowing that we wanted to be authors, all this stuff. For me, it wasn't that. It was, I'm a reader and I feel like I'm from all these places because I didn't know where I was from, right? I knew my dad
Mm.
was my dad, but I don't know where he's from. So when we talk about origin stories, especially as a young Black woman in America, this was a huge mystery, right? And I had the opportunity to build who I wanted to be and what I wanted that to look like.
Have I ever talked to you about the Where I Come From poem project?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
Mm,
It's a Where I Come From is a poem that was the I Am From project is what
mm.
it's called.
Okay.
And it was originally a I'm probably going to use this as a different it was a structure for teachers and artists to use to it was kind of like a Mad Libs
Mhm,
from where I am from. And it was
mm,
and I'm trying to recall the artist's name because I know of her
mhm,
from Alternate Roots. She was part
mhm,
of our Alternate Roots community and
mm.
created this form, and it's used all over the world now. And
Wow.
when I was in during COVID, I wrote a poem. I've written this poem multiple times, but I wrote a
Mm.
poem from this perspective during COVID, and it's actually on the website of the I Am From project. So I'll
Yours
put it,
is.
yeah, isn't that fun?
Congratulations. Yeah,
So
that's
I
fun.
will put that in our show notes for people to check out. And it also gives you it kind of gives you the Mad Libs project of how you
Mm.
do it. And I've done it with different groups. And when you were saying that about origin stories and where I'm from, sometimes
Yeah.
people are like, well, how do I do this? Or how do I
Mhm.
say it?
Yeah.
And this is a really simple way to do it that works with kids all the way up through adults. And
Right.
I made my crew do it one time at Thanksgiving. They always roll their eyes at me. I always make them do something. And somebody had a visiting person with them,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
had never met us before, and they were like,
yeah.
the next time they came, they're like, "Are we gonna have to do a poem again?"
What's the activity this year? Yes, there's an activity. It's not that though. Yeah. It
So,
sounds fun. Hey, it might be me, okay? I hear you. I'm not
right.
laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because it might be me, y'all. Yeah.
I love doing weird stuff. And then, but if I forget to do it,
Yeah.
they'll bring up something like
Mm,
right because we always talking about what are our gratitudes, or what are this or
Yeah.
that, or
It's important.
it
It's important
is.
to really tap in when we're there. Like I'm big on that. It's so easy to be on your phone or lightly watch a movie or kind of talk about
Mhm.
it. And then that one thing that we really need to talk about this trip,
Mhm.
and tomorrow we leave and nobody's talking about, like, no, we're not doing that. You know what I mean? We need to talk about it. We're going to talk
Right.
about the big stuff. We're going to talk about the little stuff. And I love how Ashley Holmes was talking about that this season when we were talking about emotional and mental wellness. For her episode, we were talking about fertility, but something she said that stood out to me that I think is really applicable to a lot of things is we are not broken. We're just looking for connections within ourselves, right, in our
Mm,
community. And
mm,
that's how I feel. Like, I might have felt like I was
mhm,
missing details, but am I broken? No, this is
mm,
just my positioning.
mm,
I am here. I am here, in different seasons. So,
mm,
Ashley Holmes, that was a great episode. 188.
yeah, it was good. And
Yeah.
really, talking, when you think about the "I am not broken" piece, what's
Mhm.
bubbled up for me is I was reminded last week of gratitude journaling. And I know you and I've talked about it often, but I talked on the show last week about how grumpy I was, and I really was. I was grumpy for like 3 or 4 days, and
Mhm.
I just allowed myself to have it because I don't. It's so rare for me. Like
Mhm.
I'm like, well, what is this about? Let's figure
Yeah.
this out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I decided when I was done being grumpy was to shift back, and I started with my gratitudes. Like I'm
Mhm.
at about 30 gratitudes every night. Like, and they can't be the same things. So they have to be, my interplay practice of look for the good and affirm the
Mhm.
good,
Mhm.
which can be challenging these days, right?
Mhm.
Except when you're really looking for it. And really how grateful I am for so many things,
So
right?
many. Yes.
Yeah. And I
Yes.
think
And
when I think oh, go ahead.
what I was gonna say, and I want to make sure I'm saying her name right. Was it Seiran?
Mhm.
Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
Seiran Aquari, when she was talking about uncovering your hidden gems, right? I think about
Mhm.
that in people because we're so used to thinking about things the same, but everybody's different, right? So, what's the hidden gems inside yourself? What about other people that you have in your community? And then, what about the situations? These difficult situations that are going on have something for you, whether it's a lesson or a skill or an opportunity. Um, and I do love how you say, look for the beauty. And also, I want to go back to something that you said earlier about sometimes we have to put it down, right? Talking about the weight
Mm.
of everything. For
Mhm.
me, I've been working on what you said of not holding it. So
Right? That
I'm
we
I'm
acknowledge it, but we don't hold it.
I'm not even trying to pick it up. You know what I mean? I want to acknowledge it. I absolutely want to make sure that I'm present and checking in. And if I'm
Mhm.
not checking in, somebody else is, and I'm checking in with
Mhm.
them. But outside of that, I am working on being very, very intentional about not picking up the weight of all of this stuff. Like you said,
Mhm.
it's too big for one body to hold.
Mhm.
So I
True.
check in with myself. I see what's going on. What is an opportunity that I have to make whatever frustration or whatever situation easier, more effective? What's the hidden
Mhm.
gem? Um, and then the rest of it, let it go, pray about it, give it to God, and try to return back to what I'm grateful for. And that's what I
Mm.
need to start figuring out because I was doing my three gratitudes in the morning, right? I started doing the glad list, what I'm grateful for, what I learned, what I accomplished that day, and then something that was a delight. I haven't been doing
Mm.
either of those. Not that
Mm.
that hasn't been happening. So I'm like, what do I want to do? How can I restart it?
All right, well, let's restart it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so the glad list.
Hmm.
Something you're grateful for.
And I consider 23 Jordan, so I'm grateful for completing the Jordan season of Women Connected in Wisdom. Last
Mhm.
time I checked, I think we had like 31,000 downloads, all
Mhm.
the amazing women and experts that we've been connected to. And I was working on this reel that I'm going to do for The Doors Closing Tonight. And part of it was this video of this gentleman from Paul Mitchell. He was buying our Women Connected in Wisdom book. He's a veteran. And I was so grateful to be able to help this
Mm.
veteran with his wellness because that is one thing I wanted to do is help the veterans, right? And also help the men with
Mhm.
Women Connected in Wisdom. And that's one of my gratitudes that I was
Mm.
thinking about today. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it was
I
good.
love that. I would say my G, I have so many, but I would say
Yeah.
my G for gratitude is really cool people on the internet that tell
Yeah.
you how to do things. So,
Okay.
like I
Yeah.
told you, I've been working on these YouTube shorts. I need
Yeah, you
to
have.
figure out what her name is. I'll find it and
Mhm.
I'll put it in our show notes. But there was this
Okay.
incredible woman that really just broke it down. And so
Yeah.
I took our shorts, which
Mhm.
usually have about 70, 75 videos, and this
Yeah.
one's now at 1,300. And
Yeah.
it was because of a tip she gave on a video.
Mhm.
So I'm going to
Mhm.
give gratitude, and if I can find her, we'll give her a shout out before the end of the show. And if not, I'll put her, not just, I will put her
Yeah.
in the show notes.
Gotcha.
But really grateful for people that share their wisdom and their
Mm.
knowledge. And all, I mean, when I think about how many, 190 guests we've had,
Hmm. Right.
maybe not quite that many because we've had some shows that it's just me and you, but we've for sure
Right.
had 180 guests
Mhm.
who come on here and share their resources and share their knowledge. And I'm just grateful for that sharing.
Right.
Hmm. Now,
Mm.
what's the L in the glass?
Learned. What did you learn today?
Ooh, ooh.
Mm. What have I learned?
Today,
Mhm. And
mhm,
it could be this week. We're doing it on the podcast, so if we wanna say in the
mhm,
last week, right, we're talking about what we
mhm,
learned and highlights from season 23. Maybe it's the season, you know? Um,
mhm,
one thing I learned, let's go with, Tina. She was talking about unearthing your intellectual wellness, right? So good. This intellectual wellness episode, y'all. And Tina was amazing and sent us a way that we can follow up with our guests. Now, I, like, grateful for it wasn't, it doesn't even explain it, you know what I mean? Because again, to work with her is not inexpensive. It's a great budget, I think. But I know that she does not give this information for free, right? So for her to say, "Hey, your systems are working," right? I feel like I learned on a high level, our systems
mhm,
look good from the high level. That's what we wanted
mhm,
to know. You know, I felt that way. I feel like I learned that genuinely this
mhm,
season. And also, she was talking, I asked her about the 18 streams of income. She broke down our plan for the podcast and everything that we're trying to do with our episodes, right? But just knowing that that's a way that
mm,
somebody who helps people generate wealth think,
mm,
and then to give us the way to follow up, not only 7 days later, 6 months later, a year later
mhm.
with our guests. That's something so I separated for us. It's in the drive in a document. Okay. Um, but
That's what I learned today.
right. Right, there you go. But yeah, y'all, like, that's amazing, learning how to make the steps that I'm already taking more effective.
Mm.
Mhm.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and I think I've been really learning how much fun it is. I've always been a data nerd, but it's really fun to tweak and try new things. And like I'm having so much fun over there on YouTube, just
Hmm.
trying to tweak and because I know that there's a fire hose of information that content creators get. And,
Yeah,
picking and choosing about what works or what doesn't
right.
work. And
Mhm.
so going with my gratitude with the G, I'll say the learning piece of,
Yeah.
okay, and just putting those pieces of the puzzle together, I think is important. Now, what comes in the A?
The A is accomplish.
Ooh, glad.
Mhm.
So, y'all, for those of y'all just tuning in,
Mhm.
we're going over glad, which is the gratitude,
Mhm.
learn, accomplish,
Accomplish, and then a delight.
a delight. So, what'd you accomplish
Mhm.
this season?
Accomplished.
But it doesn't have to be with the podcast. It could be personally. It could be.
Oh, so much. Oh, so much. So let's say one is season 23, and I genuinely
Mhm,
believe it's a Jordan season, right? I love that number. So grateful to be completing season 23, Women Connected in Wisdom, right? I love it because we're about to go on to season 24 and we'll be ending 2025 on season 25, I'm pretty sure. And then we'll be going into 2026 on season 26. I gotta look, but I'm almost positive. And I love that because it won't be lined up like that anymore. Right. So accomplished being a podcaster, top 5% in the world, 100 and what episode are we on today?
We are on episode 194.
Boom, episode 194. That's a huge accomplishment for us, right?
Mhm,
And then I will
mhm,
also say Paul Mitchell. Y'all,
mhm,
I
mhm.
missed my speaking engagement. Phew, we had to reschedule it. They had something for the students. We rescheduled it. I woke up. Like, you have got to be kidding me. I usually don't miss stuff, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
my phone was in the other room. Who knows what happened? I said, not anymore. Got an alarm clock off Amazon. System has been updated. I did not want to sacrifice and make my phone closer
Mhm.
to me, right? We definitely want to keep the blue light, different things outside of the
Mhm.
room, especially because I'm so attached to it throughout the day with the different programs and tasks that I need to run, but was not going to do the same thing twice. That's insanity. And we weren't going to get to a third and fourth time, iteration, right? So I had the
Mhm.
opportunity to reschedule, was so grateful for that, and had an amazing session with these students. And they were asking questions about absorbing. You know, we got to talk about being covered in situations, whether it's with Shalo Glow, prayer, make sure that you're good going into these situations. We talked about capacity and how to let things go, how to let things flow over your back like a swan. You know, like yes, you're there, and like we're talking about, not picking up the weight of what's going on around you. Um, but for me, being at Paul Mitchell with Mitchell being my last name has been something that's bigger than I knew to ask about. I will look at the Paul Mitchell building.
Mhm.
I thought Paul Mitchell was amazing. I even thought about going to cosmetology school when I was in high school and trying to figure out what I wanted to do after I got out, after I graduated. So a huge accomplishment to be able to go as a speaker, to be able to go as a business owner of a beauty brand, right? To be
Mhm.
able to really speak to them from an entrepreneurial experience, as a young lady going through different things, going through school, taking care of myself there, and then into the professional world with different jobs and teams, and to talk to them about
Mhm.
you guys and the listeners and the podcasts and the books. Oh my goodness, huge accomplishment. And instead of cheese, one of the pictures they say the Mitchells, and so the
Mhm.
Mitchells took a picture at Paul Mitchell. And it was beautiful.
I
Yeah, it was
love
cute.
that. I think did I see that on socials? Have you posted it on socials?
No, I haven't posted it yet.
Okay. I
So
think you just
much.
described it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Those
that's
are my
awesome.
2 big. Yeah, and there's been a
Yeah,
lot,
that's
but those
huge.
that's what I would say. What about yours for your accomplishment?
Mm. I just got back from a trip to Oakland. It was a short
Yes.
trip. I was
How
out
was
there
it?
Friday through Monday. It was
Yeah,
fabulous. It was
good.
fabulous. But one of the big accomplishment is in my role as an arts administrator with
Mhm,
Interplay and Body Wisdom.
mhm.
I was on the hiring team and just hired the new administrative director. And
Congratulations.
so huge accomplishment. Like first of all,
Good,
just that whole process, and second of all, we just picked somebody phenomenal. Like I
good.
need to get Deshonda to come on the show and like
Yeah.
come and
Come on,
be a
Deshonda.
guest.
Yeah.
I mean, just phenomenal. So that just kind of cemented it this weekend because I went out there. Like I met her through the hiring process. I
Mhm,
was starting to onboard online, and then
mhm.
went out for a long weekend to onboard in person and to get to know her in person. And uh, I'm just so grateful. So
Good,
very grateful. And my shoulders
good.
have started to come from up here down, from up around my ears down as the stress. Because when you have small teams or even medium-sized teams and somebody's
Mhm,
gone, other
mhm.
people in the team have to pick up the slack, right?
Yeah.
You know this
That's
as a
that's what I've
manager.
been. Yeah.
And so hiring somebody that's not only competent but just phenomenal,
Shout out to the
like
competent women.
right? And the
Yes.
phenomenal women, and just being
Mhm,
able to my shoulders to drop and be like,
mhm.
okay. And I wasn't holding it all on my own anyways, but
Right.
I was one of a
Yeah.
small group of people that was holding it. And now we
Mhm.
have another phenomenal
Yeah.
woman to help hold. And I'm just like, whoop, whoop.
Yes.
So that would be my
Yeah.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah. And all the things we talked about with the first two. So
Mhm.
the D for delight.
Mm. This season, what just came
Mhm.
up was being able to help my godson go to daycare. And this is my goddaughter's first year of school, and so her birthday was in March. They've been doing a lot of stuff. They were going to spring break, right? And one of the things that they needed in order for them to do that was daycare for her little brother. So even though I haven't been able to see them and things have been hectic, we've been talking about schedules and books and shifts and all these things, I was still able to show up in a different capacity. And that's one of the reasons we're working so hard, right? And so to be able to see the need, help, and help them celebrate and, their shoulders come down a little bit. That was a delight to see his little
Mm.
face in his room at his daycare. Mhm, mhm.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
You know, one of my delights from this season was the unexpected guest we had with
Oh my
Floasis
goodness.
and Queen Sheba.
That's on my
Like,
list too.
right? Episode
Mm,
190, y'all, was supposed to be financial wellness. We had another
yes,
guest lined up, and
mhm,
it was the start of National Poetry Month, which we're
yes,
right here at the end. Like, today's
yes,
the
we
end.
are.
I'm going to cry.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's
it's crazy.
interesting that I brought up that I am from poem because it's a
Mhm.
poem. You may have to read it in
Beautiful.
a second.
Okay,
It's a little older because it was when we were in lockdown, but
that's
we may
fine.
do it anyways.
I'm sure it's still relevant.
So, right? So, to have this was through our connections with alternate roots,
Yes, it
and
was.
Queen Sheba had reached out to say, hey, anybody got a podcast? We're going to be in town, we're starting this big tour, world
Mhm,
tour,
mhm.
and we're going to start it in Atlanta. So not only it was a delight that they came on and
Yeah,
ended up being on the whole episode, which was
yeah,
just so fun,
so
because
good.
when we invited them, y'all, we didn't know Floasis is a Grammy winning poet. Like,
Flow assist, yeah.
Floicist, make sure I'm saying it right. Thank you.
Mm, I
Floicist,
got
Grammy winning poet from the UK. And Queen Sheba's been nominated for three or
you.
four Grammys. Like, it was
Mm,
just fire. Like, that
yes,
episode, if you haven't listened to it, episode 190, listen to episode 190, because Floicist spit some poetry at the end,
yes, you did.
which was fantastic.
Talking about just breathe, baby, just breathe. How do
Right?
we get through it? Breathe.
Right. Well, and
Yes.
I think with creativity. I mean, I
Mhm.
think with whether it's poetry for National Poetry Month, whether it's writing, becoming a writer with women in connected in wisdom,
Yeah.
whether it's drawing or scribbling, or
And
I'm over
dancing.
here scribbling
Yeah.
as we
Oh,
talk,
that's
just
beautiful.
because
Yeah.
that's part of like creativity. Like, we create things, right?
Mhm.
That's to me, that's a huge part of our self and community care. Is what
Yeah,
are
it
we
is.
creating today,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, so many things. So thank you for going through the glad. I think it's really important and it helps me remember the things I'm grateful for and stay centered in that instead of what about this and this went wrong or we need to work on this or
Mhm.
this. Hold on, and come
Mhm.
center and you can go back out and everything will be fine.
Right? So you've done yours for today.
Hello, done,
You've
just
done
like
yours.
that.
Check, check.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
One of the things I love, which I know we've
Mm,
talked about multiple times, but is continues to be in my toolbox, is when I need to reset something, when
mhm,
I need to restart, having a buddy with me to do
mhm,
it. Because
mhm,
I think sometimes we get caught up in our shoulds and woulds and when
mhm,
and perfect
mhm.
timing, and just taking somebody's hand and saying, "Come on, let's go do this," I
Yeah,
think is powerful. I think
yeah,
it's
it
a really
is.
powerful thing. So
Yeah,
grateful. And
yes.
I think we've talked about all of our guests.
We
I just
have
want to say
one.
to our listeners, who else do we have?
Atusa, and how do you
Yeah,
say her last name again? Rysan? Rysian?
right. And she was with
Change
Change
Yourself.
Yourself,
Mhm,
Change Your World, Activating
mhm,
Divine Human about spiritual
mm.
wellness.
So
Y'all, this
good.
whole season was fire. Like,
Yes.
if you missed an episode or two, we encourage you to go back and
Yeah.
listen, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And, subscribe, like, give us a review, share with us what you're thinking and talking about. We have incredible guests lined up from here to the end of the year. And
And and further than that, because when I tell you this cue for 2026, I
when
wanna
you
tell y'all who
started
the first
talking
person
about
is on, like, who the
when
first person
y'all
on it is.
right? And when you started talking about 2026, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, it's nuts that we're gonna. I mean, the fact that it's nuts that tomorrow's May 1st is
Mhm.
like, what is
Yeah.
happening here?
Let's let's talk about it because you say that every now and then, right? We're in a
Every now
wrap.
and then.
And we talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness and even like the way we titled our podcast, right? We
Hmm.
don't want it to be a lot for
Hmm.
people. When I think
Hmm.
about business though, and sustainability and royalty days that we do for our
Hmm.
authors and passive
Hmm.
income, I do think some of it's going to have to be further out. So when you get there, why the if you're talking about 2026, what is it about the year?
No, no. Like, well, I think it's just my mom used to say, the older you get, the faster time goes.
Yeah.
And that we are today, we're wrapping 4 months of
Mhm,
2025. So
mhm.
we're a third through the year.
Right.
I mean, I love it. I mean, I am great. I have such a full life. Like, I'm
Mm.
so grateful that so much gets packed in.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and it's it's just wild how fast it's going.
Yeah, I hear
I'm
you.
yeah.
For me, it helps me expand time,
Mhm.
right? I don't when I think about planning ahead, I know things are gonna change, right? Like, I have realistic expectations on
Mhm.
that. But when I get there, let's say if it's our 1 to 4:45, right? And we're doing our work, we're doing our coffee and chats and all this stuff, that 3 hours and 45 minutes, however we spend it, I'm not worried about time because we know what time our break is, we know
Yeah,
what time, and then I'm just as present as possible, and it feels like time expands. And so that's kinda how I feel like sometimes it goes really fast, sometimes it goes really slow, but when I'm present, I can enjoy all of it, and that's what helps me,
right.
stay calm about planning so far ahead, but I do
No,
understand
I
what
would
you're
I
saying.
would agree.
Yeah,
And no, I think it's just I mean, it just feels yeah, feels fast.
fast. It does feel
It's
fast.
like it feels fast. I mean, my baby turned 23 last Saturday, and
Mhm.
she was just born yesterday. And
Yeah,
23 years is like boom, right?
yeah. Mhm.
Um, so it's fascinating to me, and I'm grateful. Like
Yeah.
I'm grateful that our lives are full and we have exciting things. And I of course am thinking about it's May. We need to be thinking about our summit and our retreat and our like we've been talking about a Women Connect and Wisdom retreat. I'm like, let's get it on the books because we're
I've
gonna
been
look
thinking
up
about
in
it.
2026 they're gonna be here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but we'll get there. We'll get there just like we got here today, just like we got
right.
to the end of season 23, and we'll work it out. And y'all, that's why, and again, not that I follow it all the time, just like y'all see, I had to do the glad on the episode instead of in my journal, right? But something I do is pre-schedule the campaigns and stuff, So for like Shalo
Mhm.
Glow, we're supposed to be having a Mother's Day campaign coming up. I say supposed to because my little chart says it's supposed to start May 1st, but I have not started writing these emails. Now, we're about to celebrate 5 years, so I'm sure I have emails somewhere, but things like that, I kind of give myself a preemptive deadline. That way I have some time in between and then I can start it. And that's how I expand time before the project starts. So I
Mhm.
get in, I got you. We'll have a good time. I see you putting up this wisdom in action. For a
Right.
wrap, for me, I told you I've been working on like being present. I've been working
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
reinstating my non-negotiables. I would say that my hashtag wisdom in action is hashtag be intentional.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
What about you?
I love what you're talking about be present.
Mhm.
I was in Oakland last weekend and being able to be present with some people I adore, and I'm going to be in Pittsburgh this weekend doing a
Mm.
interplay event, and I like to be present. So,
Yes.
and I
And
want
what
to say hashtag enjoy.
yeah. 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 And that's where I'm at, even if I look forward to getting to other seasons, even if I look forward to um, pub- publishing all three versions of Volume 3 this year, I want to enjoy it along the way. Like the
Hmm.
destination is such this small moment in time that sometimes we
Hmm.
get there and it's even difficult to celebrate it, and there was all this build up, you know what I mean? So just enjoying the process. I'm definitely with you there. And I've been thinking about how much you've been traveling, and I've been really excited for you to be able to be on the other side of what you talk about. You and Dr. Sheila K. Collins has had to pivot through, how your
Hmm.
business, your
Hmm.
global business that you were traveling around the world doing, speaking to different people, having
Hmm.
your classes shut
Hmm.
off when COVID happened, and now you're back in Oakland multiple times and, flying different places. So I love to hear you getting these experiences.
Well, and I mean, and not just the pandemic, but then grief and loss, like we've talked about. Because I was supposed to be in Pittsburgh a year ago, right around
Mm.
this time, for the launch of Sheila's "The Art of Grieving" book that I supported her on,
Yes, you
and then my dad was dying, so I needed to be right where I was and be present
mhm.
where I was with
Yeah.
that sacred time. So it
Mm.
does kind of feel like a full circle as we are as I'm approaching that anniversary, and I am going to be with her this weekend and
Mm.
dancing and having a good time and connecting with inner players from all around. So, yeah,
Yes,
good thing.
so
It's a
important.
good thing. Good
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. Okay, y'all. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed this wrap up. Please check in with these ladies and these resources for holistic fertility. Change yourself, change your world. We have the uncovering your hidden gems, right? Unearthing your intellectual wealth. How do you use what you're already doing to get you where you want to go? You don't have to do more, right? Embracing the unknown. We might know part of it, but we don't ever know all of the situations that we're in, right? And then we had the sexual vitality, intimate wellness, and seen, heard, understood, and listened to. Y'all dig into these resources. Oh, and I don't want to forget the embracing the unknown, discovering your relationship to change. I love how all of these weave into each other and give you a lot of stuff to chew on, a lot of stuff to work through. We're about to get out of here. I do want to let you guys know because we keep talking about these doors closed. We talked about volume 3. Today is the day, April 30th, 2025. Emotional and mental wellness might be full, y'all. So if you're interested in coming in on that, let us know. We can see if that's the best fit or if it would be another dimension of wellness. But the doors are still open for us to reach these 24. We should be a go with who we
Until
have right now
midnight.
until midnight, right? But we want you and your people to be included if this is a year for them. So email us at cwpress@womenconnectedinwisdom.com. We will be back here live at 5 next week, Eastern Standard Time, right? Next week for season 24. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. Peace.